Wild Wednesday Live. We are back in studio at our regular time, and I gotta tell you, I'm not gonna lie, I'm so glad to be home, sleeping in my own bed, and I know Beth feels the same way. I'm Raylene from Quilters Haven, and I'm going to be your host today. Just a few things we want to go over before we get started with today's vendors. First of all, we had a wonderful time. Even though it was kind of rough being on the road so much over the last about 6 weeks, it was great to meet so many of you guys in person, firsthand. We had a blast meeting all of you guys, so we hope we'll see more of you. Our next upcoming shows, first of all, on October 14th through 17th, that is Pacific International in California. Now, I will not be at that show, but Beth will, and so will a lot of your favorite Wild Wednesday vendors. So be sure that you look for them and seek them out if you're going to Pacific International. And then the next time you're going to see all of your regular Quilt Craft Sewing Festival vendors will be in Tucson. And Tucson is coming up at the beginning of November, the 4th through the 6th. And then Beth and I will both be at Puyallup, which is generally our last show of the year. That is the week before Thanksgiving. I don't have those dates yet, but we'll give those to you next week. Just as a reminder, whenever we are live from the show floor, our time is a little different. It's always going to be at 3 o'clock, whatever the local time is where the show is. The reason that we have that time change is at 2 o'clock, we're still just too busy to be leaving our booths to go walking around. By 3 o'clock, it's kind of quieted down so that Beth and I can get out of our booths and go have some fun. And remember, if you're coming to the show, if you come up to Beth and I and say, I get wild with you on Wednesday, we do have a special gift for you. They are different in each booth, so you want to be sure that you do that. And just real quick, I've had some messages coming through our Facebook page, so I want to give y'all a little bit of an update on Adele from Choc Couture. You guys, as we've been updating you, she had gotten a really bad case of bronchitis that got bad enough it landed her in the hospital, but we are so happy to tell you that she is out of the hospital. She's going to be, having to do some rehab for a while, so she will not be at the Tucson show, but we hope that she'll be well enough to join us in Puyallup. But we'll keep you updated on that. But I know she appreciates everybody's well wishes and all your prayers, and we're still praying for a quick recovery so we can get her back. Let's see here. I'm trying to go through my notes. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I am really behind the 8 ball today. I was just rattled all day. Just being home a couple of days, I was not as prepared for the show as I like to be, but we'll get through it. And just a reminder that to find, all the vendors that you like to see when you're at the shows, be sure off time, you go to Quilt Craft Sew Mall. There's always weekly specials, monthly specials, all kinds of fun things going on the online mall. So be sure you check that out as well. We will ask that you hold all your questions for our vendors today until the end of the show. And then we're going to bring everybody back on for a quick question and answer. And you can ask your questions then. If you type them in too soon, I may not see them, and we don't want to miss any of your questions. So just wait until we give you the go ahead for the Q&A session. And if you ever miss one of our live shows, you can always check us out on our YouTube channel, Wild Wednesday Live. We usually have those up on the channel a few hours after the show ends. And be sure while you're there to hit that subscribe button, and you'll never, ever miss a show. And as always, we've got 5 great door prizes today. So if you're new with us, later in the show, I'm going to give you a secret word. You simply type that word in only one time. Everybody just needs one time. And that will enter you into the contest. Then a few hours from now, usually by 6 o'clock, we will post the 5 lucky winners with the instructions on how you can claim your prize. So today we have an Advent kit that's being donated by McGhee. We have a $25 gift certificate to her website from Quilted Treasures. We have 2 Wild Wednesday coffee mugs being donated by Wild Wednesday. And Justnotions is going to be giving 2 winners, each a set of 2 of our square ups. So we'll be doing that later on in the show. So first up today, we are so excited to have everybody's favorite Linda McGhee back with us. We haven't had her on for a while, and she's got some really fun things to share with us that's going to get us back in the kind of get us in the mood for our Christmas and October shows, which start next week. So she's got some great Christmas ideas she's going to share with you. So let's see if we can get Linda. You there, Linda?
I'm here, Raylene.
Hey.
So good to see you.
It's good to see you. It's been too long since we've had you on with all these shows. It's just been so crazy. It's good crazy, but I have to admit, we're a little tired. I am so excited for what you're going to show us today, and I don't want to take any of your time. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you go crazy.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Thank you so much, Raylene. It's good to be back with you. And it was my understanding that we were supposed to get into the Christmas mood. So I even pulled out a vest that was kind of Christmassy and pulled out some earrings that to go along with the season too. But what I'd like to start us off with is taking a look at some Advent calendars. I'm also going to show you my embroidery cardinals that'll be great to go on the tree. So we'll cover a little bit of sewing, a little bit of serging, and a little bit of embroidery today. I got to get backwards from the camera. I forget about that. It's been a while. I discovered 4 different Advent calendars, and they're all really cool. This is one, and it has the cutest little pockets that you can put stuff in. And as far as putting stuff in, I think thread is a good thing to put into the pockets when you're giving this to somebody. So they have different colors of thread, or maybe even different types of thread as each day comes along into the Christmas season. But these pockets are designed on all 4 of the different panels that I have. So part of the design is the base, as you can see here. And then part of the design are the little squares that you're going to cut. Now, I'm not much at folding under a little bit and then a little bit more and edge stitching it. It's just not my cup of tea. So I decided to pull out the serger and do this. So what I did, and this is actually the base. Okay, here we go. So what I did was set up my serger for a narrow rolled 3 thread. So in the upper looper, I have a pretty red thread. This one has a little bit of sparkle to it. It's a woolly nylon type thread. And then in the lower looper and the needle, I have an all-purpose thread. So I'm going to set the machine for a 3 thread narrow rolled edge. So pull out your instructions so you can do that. Now the pockets on this particular design, you can see that there are lines going across, horizontal and vertical. So what you will do is on the ends, sew the narrow rolled edge just along this line. Just go all the way down. You don't need to cut everything up. We're going to start off with the big piece. So you're going to narrow rolled edge all the way down. And then you're going to start coming across so that you end up with however many strips. It depends upon the design, and they're all completely different. You can see my fun little narrow rolled edge with the metallic thread in it, combined with the red. And there's so many wonderful threads that you can work with nowadays. And I left the tails on because I wasn't sure whether I was going to let that be part of the design or whether I needed to tuck it in later, or I just wasn't sure what I was going to do. If you cut it off right now, you need to put a little bit of fray check on the end. But another option is just to fold it back and let it be caught as you're stitching the pockets. Now you will notice that there's a line in between each one of these squares. That is a stitching line. So you're going to form a little pleat. You can see my pleat, and stitch the stitching line to the base part. So that on my base part, you can see there's a stitching line about right here. And then there's probably 2 more or 3 more on there. So there are some instructions for you, but as you can see on the edge, there are minimum instructions. They don't tell you to use the serger. They tell you to use a narrow rolled edge, narrow rolled hem, but I'm going to use the serger with mine. And stitch those to create the finished look. Now, I had a brainstorm that some of these little designs would be great to mix and match on a vest. And I was going to use the leftover to do some of my spiral patchwork. Well, the first plan was to put steam seam on the back side and then do the narrow rolled edge. And I like the steam seam light 2. And light means it's not going to be cardboardy, and the 2 means it has a sticky to it. Then I realized as I was about to press the steam seam on the back that if I steam a seam the whole big piece, I was going to end up with sticky next to my serger. So what I did was go ahead and take all of these squares, and I haven't gotten the vest, but I'm going to be back in October, so maybe I'll get it finished by then. I took all the squares and serged around them, and I did it, kept the pieces as long as I could. And then I came back and put the steam seam 2 on the back side. It doesn't have to go all the way to the edge. And when I peel the paper back off from the steam seam, I can position these where I want them. Now, I know that I'm not going to leave these tails that long, but I'm going to leave a little bit. But once you cut it, it's cut. So I'm leaving that option till later on. But I can position a few of these up the side of the vest, like the vest I have on, a few of them on the back. I don't have to use all of them. On most of the designs, the day of the year or the day of the month kind of disappears, so I wasn't even worried about that. You may decide that some of the designs you want smaller than others, and just let the design that's in the box determine how you narrow rolled edge to edge. Now, a couple of things that are that we actually have 4 different, completely different designs. They all come in a panel. They all have the same idea to them. One of them is a tree, and this has the midnight stars or the nighttime stars in the background. And the designs, the little pockets are actually on the tree, and there's some coming up the side. This one was in a basically square design. And this is the one that I used to start. This is the one that enticed me to start playing with the vest. The gift one has boxes of gifts on it. And then the 4th one has poinsettias around the edge, and the boxes are in the center. So there's 4 different styles. Who knows? Maybe you need to do each one. But we've put together kits. You can purchase just the panel, because if you're going to make a garment out of this, then you don't have to worry about the batting and that type of thing. Or you can purchase a fabric kit with it, which has the backing, the binding, or the 3rd option is to get it with the batting in there. So if you're out in the country and you don't have any batting, as long as you have thread, then you're good to go. So you have 3 different options, and I decided to make it easy for you. If you go to our website, which is gees.com, and in the scroll down shopping area, go to specials. And we've already given you a special price, and each one you can see up close and personal each one of the designs. So there are 4 of them to choose from. Maybe you need all 4. With some of my embroidery, and I did design some designs with cactus punch a few years ago, and I still love my embroidery flowers. The poinsettia is the one that I'm wearing today, and they're on our website, so you could order those if you wanted to. But I put a collection of thread to go along with the designs that was more for the Christmas. And poinsettias come in pink. They also come in red and almost oranges or almost burgundies. So if you're needing thread, I went ahead and put this collection on the specials too. So you can see that there, and you'll have a variety of reds and green to work with if you wanted to go that route. Another thing that I just love playing with glitzy threads, and I have a Christmas collection of Dazzle, and Dazzle is a heavier thread that you would couch with. If you are a hand sewer, then you can use it with your hand sewing, but it is too heavy to go in the needle. So you would use it in the upper and lower looper on your serger. You can use it for bobbin work, or you can use it for couching. So it will be fun to embellish some of your panels with this. Now, I did mention fusibles earlier, and Steam a Seam is listed by the sheet, I think it's 18 inches, and by the yard, 24 inches. So we have that on special too, and it's all in one place for you. Of course, you can shop all over the website, but it sort of depends upon how you are using Steam a Seam, what size you want to purchase. So by the yard or sheets, either way is fine. It's the same product. It's a fusible. You know, sometimes we get real excited by the iron and we forget to pay attention to which is the fusible side. So I highly recommend the Teflon sheet, because this Teflon sheet allows steam to go through. I should have pulled it out of the package. It allows steam to go through, but it won't injure your iron. If you get Steam a Seam on this, you can just wipe it off, and that way you keep your iron nice and clean for times when you don't need a fusible. If you do get a fusible on the right side of your fabric, a little dot of rubbing alcohol, just stick your finger in the bottle and put it on the Steam a Seam, and it'll kind of bead up, and then you can flick it off. So always out, not lost if you do get fusible on the right side of your fabric, but it's best not to do that. I know things always happen. Now, another thing I discovered a few years ago is that cardinals mean a loved one is coming back to visit. And I have a cardinal that comes to my yard every single day. I've seen him for the past 2.5 years. Now, the other day there was actually 5 of them. But the cardinal, this cardinal, I had Lindy Goodall from Lindy G's Designs digitize this for me. It's solid thread, so it is stitched on a water-soluble stabilizer. And this is the one that dissolves with water. I use the one from Soki, and Soki, the blue label, and they refer to it as fabric-like. It has that on the packaging. So 2 layers, because we're working with a lot of thread. There's like 18,000, not 1,800, 18,000 stitches in this particular design. So it takes a while to stitch it out. I think it takes about 35 minutes to stitch the design. And there you're using pretty thread in the bobbin as well as the top. I do like to change the black thread, so if somebody sees this from a distance, they still see the black on the cardinal. But you also need to remember to change to red bobbin when you get to the rest of the body. Otherwise, you're going to have a black cardinal. And I actually have 2 of those that I forgot to change. Nobody knows it if it's against the back of something, but if it's hanging on the tree, you never know when it's going to flip over. You can get in a 5-inch hoop 2 of these, and you stagger them to get them in there. It takes about 73 minutes to stitch both of them out. And then I trim the excess stabilizer away and run it through warm water just in the sink. But don't rinse all the stabilizer completely out, because I want a bit of a starch, and the stabilizer is going to act as a starch for me. That stabilizer will allow it to have some curls. You know, a cardinal isn't flat. A cardinal has wings and tails, and so the stabilizer allows you to have these curved areas to look a little bit more natural. Now I've paid attention to cardinals, and you can't really see their feet when they're in flight. So I opted not to put the feet on here because I didn't like the looks of them anyway. So on my design, there are no feet. They're tucked under the feathers because they're in flight. And there is a little hole right up at the top, an eyelet, so that you can put a string or a hook to go on the tree, or hang it from your fan, or wherever you want to have a little cardinal. This is solid thread. Okay, now, maybe I talked too fast. I thought I had way more stuff to talk about than I could do in 15 minutes. But perhaps I talked a little bit too fast. And
No, actually, that was great, Linda. Perfect timing.
Perfect timing. I think I put the timer on, so it may go off in just a second. Yep. Okay. Okay. No, so I'm ready.
That was great.
So I hope you are too. Thank you so much, Raylene.
Well, you're certainly helping us get ready. And guys, remember when you go to her website, do her drop-down menu, go to her specials page, and she's got already set up. You don't need any special codes or anything. And then, of course, be sure and shop the rest of her site as well. And Linda, we hope you can stick around to the end for the question and answers.
Sure, I'll be here till then. Thank you.
Great. We'll see you in a bit. Okay, guys, I told you at the beginning, I am like so disorganized today. It's driving me crazy. And I realized because the regular viewers are so good that I forgot to have you guys do roll call. And most of the regulars, you guys already did it on your own. But if you haven't put where you're watching from, go ahead and type that in the comments, because Beth and I really enjoy going back and seeing where everybody's watching us from. And you never know, if we ever get to your town, we might come knocking on your door for dinner. So don't let that keep you from putting your town on. Okay, so we do our little thing that we started a few weeks ago, where when we're in the studio, we do our quick tips. So I have a couple of quick tips for you today, and the first one is, and I may have mentioned this before when I demoed different notions, but I wanted to repeat it again because it was kind of a topic of conversation at the last show we just came from. So for those of you who are using the Friction or the Frixion pens, that is that special gel ink that you remove with the warm iron. When you're not using those pens, if you keep them in the refrigerator, they will last longer because they are, disappear and activate with heat. If you keep them cool, they won't dry up as soon. So that's our first quick tip for the day. All right, next up, we have Bobbie from Quilted Treasures. We haven't had her on for a while, but she's actually coming live to us from a quilt shop in Florida today. So we're going to get her in here and see what she's up to now. So, hi, Bobbie. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us where you're at, what you're doing, and I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay. I am at Misty's Quilt Shop in Palaca, Florida. It's 301 St. John's Ave. And we are getting ready to have a quilt show here Friday and Saturday. So the 1st and the 2nd. And on Friday, it will be 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So I hope if you're in the area that you stop by and see us. They've got some beautiful quilts set up here. I can't show you the quilts, but I can tell you they're beautiful. What my specialty is stained glass. So the technique I use is simple. First, you trace everything onto your background fabric. Then you trace each of your pieces. You want to keep them in as many big pieces as you can. I glue it down with just a few drops of Roxanne glue base tip. I don't use fusible, so I can lay it without any bulk. There's no stiffness, and I can reposition them. The secret, make sure you cut it large enough that they overlap. If you butt two raw edges, they will separate. Now we're going to use a product called Leadline, and this is a polyester braid, and it has no right or wrong side. We're going to glue that down on covering our raw edges. When you go around a corner, you simply fold it back onto itself. The only raw edge is when you cut it. So we bring that close to heat of a candle, it melts and seals it. We glue it down with Aleene's tacky glue and one of our applicators. Once you glue it down, you can remove it with just a drop of water. All this has the glue in it, and these are starting their 21st year, my sample is, and the glue is still in there, so it's not going to stain, but you can wash it out. All of my quilts are washable. And after we glue it down, we're going to base it together with our batting and backing. So right on the lead line, and you're quilting all at the same time. If you use a single needle, you need to go down one side and back the other. Just change your bobbin thread, and it'll look like you did free motion quilting. Now, all of this is on my website under the YouTube video. The only thing I've added is when you're doing your lead line, if you place this on a piece of cardboard, when you fold it to go around a corner or doing a curve, just use straight pins, and that will hold it in place until it dries. It dries very quickly, but it means you don't have to stop. These are some samples on ways. This is the fabric overlay. So my yellow butterfly is all one piece of fabric. The blue and the orange are placed on top of it. I call that fabric overlay. The next one, if you've done Zentangle, this is done with Zentangle. Now, this is one piece of fabric, and if you want to do Zentangle and you've never tried it, you can go to my Pinterest page. So after Pinterest.com, enter in my last name, Bergquist, then Bobbie. And that will take you to my page. Just scroll down till you get to Zentangle, and I have 12,400 pins on there for you to use. So don't be afraid to try it. Now, when you're doing it on fabric, you want to take a scrap of the fabric you're going to use. Write the name of the brand of pen that you're using. Take it to your ironing board, heat set it, then throw it in the sink. If it bleeds, you're going to have to use another pen. You need to do this every time you change either pens or fabric, because not all fabric is created the same. This one is done on a piece of fairy frost, and this is one piece of fabric. I've colored it in with the Fabrico pens made by Tsukineko, and then I've colored it in and put my lead line over it. Again, one piece of fabric. I call this technique instant stained glass. Now the lead line comes in white, black, and green. So on this one, what I've done is I've glued everything down. Before I sew anything, I slip a business card under the edge to protect the background, and then I color it in with my pens, and that protects everything. Even the gold was white lead line, so you can color it in. There's metallics as well as the translucents. There's 46 different colors now in the Tsukineko inks and 35 in the pens. So once we've done this, we just sew and quilt. And if you like to add a little bling to your life, this one here is done with Tonatex. The nice thing about Tonatex is when you put your glue on, you let it dry till it's clear and it's tacky. Then you either use the foil or you use the powder and you put it on. At that point, it is 100% machine washable and you don't need to do anything else to it. So those are just different ways you can use the same technique. I'm going to share with you my newest quilt, and it's going to have to go in 2 sections. I call this See My New Friends. So there's a total of 12 blocks. And these are very simple ones to do, and it is machine washable. And I do use my quilt as you go technique when I'm assembling my quilts, and they look like one piece of fabric on the back. Now, this is so new that it's not on my website yet. So Ruth went on this morning, and she put there that if you want to order these patterns, to contact me. My phone number is 603-532-4844. Or you can email me at joe@quiltestreasure.com, and I will sell these to you over the line because unfortunately Ruth had a bout with the COVID virus. She's feeling fine now, and I just don't want to put her under too much pressure to get everything up. So we have that. Also, I'm offering 25% off all kits and patterns except for sale items on my website. And that's good until Saturday at midnight. So just enter WW25 and you will get 25% off any of the kits or the patterns, except for the sale patterns, paint expressions, and have fun. I'm also giving a $25 gift certificate away so that you can spend it however you like. Now, one of the things I've done is my dogs. And this is so big, I'm going to have to show it to you in stages. These were the first, this is the second group. These are my new ones. These are on the website. They're only $8 for a pattern. And if you want to get the kits, those are posted as well. And also, we want to get all 12 of them. We have a special price for that. So those are my newest dogs. And we're just starting to show them now that the shows are starting up again. And these were the original 12 that I did. And let me hike this up a little bit. And these are all very simple. And if I don't have your dog on here, it's real easy to do. Just take a picture of your dog, trace the pattern out, and keep it very simple. And you can use that as a pattern. Now for the cat lovers, we haven't forgotten you. Here are my 12 cats. This one in the corner over here is one of my favorites, with the cat looking over his shoulder, trying to figure out how to get this to go straight on her. And that one says, "The dog did it." When doing cats, it was really easy, because in 12 cats, as long as I had a Siamese, a furry one, nice and fluffy one, then most of them are personalities. And my other new quilts this year are the Celtic Inspirations. Now I have a total of 20 new blocks. I'm going to bring this up to the camera a little bit so you can see it. Whoops. Now this is one piece of fabric, each of these blocks. I have an 18-inch template that you trace onto a piece of tone-on-tone fabric. I recommend you use a mechanical pencil because you have a nice fine line. Then you're going to take the fine tip of the Fabrico pens and you're going to go right over the pencil lines. Because I've used a tone-on-tone fabric, when I color in the background, it's going to take the texture of the background. And then once it's all colored in, heat setting it makes it permanent. Now when I sew these, what I do is I take my sewing machine and I sew around the squares and around the triangles, and that stabilizes it. Then I like to take and use my decorative stitches, the one that we buy the machines for, and you use them in the blank areas, and I even do it around the outside of the square. That stabilizes it. Now when you want to quilt it, you can simply go back onto your machine or by hand, and you can quilt them either free motion or just cross hatching. I like to do hand quilting, so I've done hand quilting on these. And this is the set of all 12 patterns, which when you buy them all 12, we give you 20% off. And what you will get is our directions. And I've made only one change in 21 years. And that's adding to place it onto the cardboard. You're gluing your lead line down. And these come with just a very simple pattern inside. So you can see how simple they are to do. And that's why if you want to do your pet, your dog or your cat, all you have to do is just trace it out onto a piece of paper and use that as your pattern. And don't forget, at Miss D's Quilt Shop, October 1st and 2nd, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday. Stop in and see us. You'll see all these quilts along with other vendors and beautiful, beautiful quilts. Thank you, Raylene.
That was awesome. You know, I love all your stuff, but the Celtic always really grab my eye. I mean, they are just gorgeous. But I also am really kind of fond of that new the animal quilt. When you sent the picture of that for us to put on Facebook, I fell in love with that. So I don't know, I might have to go do some shopping later on today on your website. But I appreciate that you made this happen for us today, even though you're on the road. And hopefully if some of our viewers are in the area, that you check out that quilt show, guys. Don't let a quilt show get by that you can get to. We already see what happens when you take those shows for granted. You might wait a year and a half or two before you get to see another one. So Bobbie, I hope you can stick around till the end in case we have any questions.
Thank you, I will.
Okay, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, so it is about that time for our secret word. So again, I know all you regular viewers know how this works, but for any of our new viewers, in just a moment, I'm going to give you just one word. That's our secret word today. All you do is type that into the comments. Please only do that one time. And then after the show, I will get all those names together. I will put them on a wheel and spin that wheel. And that's how we choose our 5 winners. Then we will post right on our Wild Wednesday Live Facebook page who the winners are and what you need to do to redeem them. Now, you only have until midnight Friday to redeem those and get a hold of me, or we will just put those back in for a later date. So if you see a friend's name, be sure you let them know, because we really do want to give all these prizes away. So if you guys are ready, today's secret word is fall. Fall, because it's almost getting to be that. We are only 85 degrees here today in Arizona, which is, I'm freezing. I had to turn off one of the air conditioners. I'm freezing to death. You guys, I always tell you, I get cold when it gets like this. But after all those 125 days we had, we're kind of happy to have some 85s. Okay, our next quick tip for today, and this is another one of those things that I know that a lot of you that have been quilting and sewing for a long time may be aware of, but the wonderful thing that happened when everybody started doing their own mask making is that we had a lot of people come to quilting, come to sewing when they taught themselves to sew to make a mask, decided they loved it, and we're just seeing so many new quilters when we're out at the shows. So this quick tip is kind of more for the novices, and that is, so often when you just get into quilting, it can be a little overwhelming when you look at the price of fabric. And of course, fabric has gone up so crazy over the last 10 years or so. And a lot of times you might see a fabric at your local quilt shop that you fall in love with. And then you see that exact same fabric in a discounter. Well, what I want to be sure you understand is, even though it may be the same print or design, the fabric in the discount shop is a lower thread count. And that means that fabric is not going to last as long as the higher quality that you would purchase in the quilt shop. So even though it might be a little bit more money, if you are going to put all that work into a quilt, be sure you are waiting until you can afford to get the better fabric, because you don't want it to fall apart after just a few washings. And unfortunately, that's what tends to happen with the lower thread count fabric. So please always be supporting your local quilt shops. And remember that the reason the price on fabric is higher, it is a much higher quality. Okay, so let's see here. I'm sorry, I'm having to check my notes so much today. This is your last reminder again that secret word today is fall. And again, I should have the winner names posted by 6 o'clock this evening. And I also wanted to mention, because I gave you that little update at the beginning of the show on Adele, and then Bobbie mentioned Ruth. We told you before that our webmaster Ruthie had been kind of down for a few days, but you know what? We all rely on her. She does websites for several of the vendors. She does all the detail and graphics work for Wild Wednesday for Beth and I. And she is absolutely back to her old self. She's back working, and we're just so glad to have her back. It's like Bobbie said, we were all lost without her while she was down. So we have a lot of people that really do help support the show, and we couldn't do any of this without them. Okay, so I'm going to kind of change gears here a little bit. I'm going to get rid of my stool. We had one of our vendors that kind of had an unexpected situation come up, and they had to cancel, and we're going to reschedule them. But so I had to real quick throw something together that I wasn't planning on doing for a couple of weeks. But Ron's going to I'm going to get my papers out of the way here, and then Ron's going to tip the camera down here in just a minute. But back up here first. Okay, so I know that we've talked, a little bit briefly from time to time on different shows when I've demoed about our acrylic square ups. But, I get asked a lot at the shows. People will come up, and again, especially beginners, because it's a little overwhelming, especially if you're first, before you've ever even gone to just a quilt shop, you go to a quilt show. It can be really intimidating. So because we carry so many different sizes of our square ups, I'm going to hold one up here. So we have all sizes of square up. So we start at 2.5 inches and we go up to 13.5 inches. And the finished size, we have one. So we have 2.5, we have 3, we have 3.5, we have 4. So a lot of times people will come and ask me, they'll say, okay, well, I don't have any squares. What should I do? The thing that we always want to remember, and this is for your squares and also for your rulers, when you're just starting out and you're just getting your first, you want to get the largest one because you're going to be able to do a lot of different sizes with your larger ruler. So I'm going to just real quick show you, because we've actually recently even had some experienced quilters that weren't real sure how to start with their square and how to actually square up a block. So I'm hoping that I've got this camera to where you'll be able to see that fairly well. So Ron's going to tip it down for me. And the first thing that we're going to need to do, and I purposely cut a piece of fabric that's all crooked here on the edge. So you show them right here. Yeah. Okay. And you notice we've got all kinds of jagged edge. It's not even. And I'm going to try to move it so it's in front of the camera there better. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my square and I'm going to slide that up to the edge. Hang on, I got some fabric in my way here. I'm going to slide that up to the edge. And the first thing I want to do, and I got a directional fabric, which was not the easiest to do, is I'm going to put that square down. And what I need to do is square up 2 of my sides. Okay. So I've got 2 sides that I know it's squared up. And of course I did that at a terrible angle here. I'm going to spin it around and fix my, the fact I didn't cut through because I wasn't pushing down hard enough. So, okay. So now I know that those 2 sides are squared. So now if I want to cut, say for instance, I need 2.5 inch squares, I can do that all the way up, if my fabric piece was large enough, to a 13.5 square. Because now what I'm going to do, for this example, let me do a 5. And let me get it turned around here so that... So let me do a 5.5 inch square. Well, I'm going to find that 5.5 inch mark. We know that these 2 sides are squared and straight. So if I put my squared up side right on my 5.5 inch, then I can cut my perfectly square 5.5 inch square. Same thing. Say maybe I need a 3 inch square. I'll do the same thing. And so that's why I'm telling you that you get so much use out of your larger squares. So if you start with a bigger one, you're going to get all those sizes on this one from a 1 inch to a 13.5 inch. Then later on, you might find that then you're doing a special project. Maybe you need to cut a whole bunch of 6.5 inch squares or 8.5 inch squares. It is very convenient then to have that square in that exact size if you're going to be doing a lot. But you can also, again, you can get by forever with just that one larger square. And the same thing goes for your rulers. You can get your 1/2 inch strips or 1 inch strips, 2 inch strips out of that larger ruler. I recommend to start with a ruler that you get either a 6x17 or 6x18 to start, because again, you'll be able to do a lot. But then later on, if you're going to be cutting a whole bunch of strips at one size or another, again, you might find that it would be useful to have that ruler in that exact size. Also, just about the rotary cutters as well. And there's lots of different brands out there. And I've told you guys before that I'm partial to Olfa. Olfa was the original company to come out with rotary cutters. And I have my handles that I have had for probably 25 years or so. They came out in the early 90s. And they do make 4 sizes, although I can't find my 28. But 60, 28, I'm sorry, 60, 45, 28, and 18. Here's what I wanted to say about this little 18. I actually stopped carrying these quite some time ago because they're so small. The quality was not the normal Olfa quality. And I found that they broke really easy. And you can usually pretty much anything you were going to use the 18 for, the 28 is beautiful for it. Now, when you're buying your first rotary cutter, start with the 45 millimeter. You will be able to do almost everything with that 45. But then later on down the road, if you decide you're going to be going around some little curvy pieces or whatever, if the 60 seems too big, the 28 is going to be beautiful. And you can use the 45 and the 28 on all kinds of other stuff as well. Even straight line, if you just some people just say, oh, I like something smaller when I'm cutting. I will tell you, 99% of the time, I use my 60. And I don't know why. I can't really give you any scientific reason. I picked it up one day and went, ooh, I just like that bigger wheel. Seems like I get through what I need to cut a lot faster. So it's really up to you again, but I always recommend when a new quilter is getting started with a mat and a rotary cutter that you start with a 45. And then, of course, when you go to get your mat, there are all sizes of mats. And this one that I have here, of course, you can't see the whole thing because we're doing a close-up shot. But this is the one that fits a 4-foot folding table. Just, the tables you go buy at Costco or Sam's Club or Home Depot. And I love it because it's two-sided. So if you saw the other side, it's absolutely disgusting. The other side is what I usually have on my table where I do all my shipping, and I'm constantly cutting cardboard and everything on it. But I always tell people, you don't need a giant mat to start out with. A 16 by 24 is a really good starter size, but I really do recommend that you purchase your mat from the Big Mat Rotary Cutting Surface Company. That's what I use. They are all over our workshop, and they're made in the United States, which is a biggie, but also they don't warp, they don't buckle, and they actually have a little tool they call a mat eraser that when you get those raised cut marks in your mat, you just take that and wipe it over it, and you bring your mat back to life. So they are in our vendor mall. They've been on the show a few times, and Teresa always has some really great specials. So if you're just starting out, that's who I would recommend you go check out your mat for. And then one real quick thing too that I wanted to share, let me get these squares out of the way here, is, people are always asking us, how do you use our nesting tools? We have hexagons, circles, I'm trying to see everything back there, octagons, all kinds of things that are done in nesting tools. We have squares, we have rectangles, we have 45 and 60 degree triangles. And the advantage, first of all, of the nesting tools is that you have lots of different sizes, but they don't take a lot of space because they just stack inside each other. You can throw them back in the bag that they come in. But they're also really great for not only, for example, let me get some of these out of the way here. And this is actually just that was a prototype. So let me see. Looks like it's about, so it's 5.5. So that would, 5.5. So first of all, I can use it just like I would use a square. I can use to cut the outside to square up, say a 5-inch square, but they're also great for fussy cutting. They're also good for scrapbooking. And, if you're doing you want to cut your, I went blank here, but scrapbooking and fussy cutting is my favorite because here's this piece of fabric, and coincidentally, I actually got this from Teresa at Big Mats a couple of years ago because it was so pretty. But you notice it has all these birds. Well, if I was going to fussy cut, and again, for you beginners, that's when you take a piece of fabric and you want to cut a picture out of it so that you can put it right in the center of a block or what have you. So the nesting tools are also really, really good for fussy cutting. Let me see if I can get that in the screen better right there. So if I wanted to use this bird, say in the center of a block, well, I could just mark right inside of that, and then after I marked it, I could use my ruler to lay on that line and rotary cut it out or cut it out with my scissors. And this way also, if you've got a piece of fabric that you think will work, that you want to fussy cut the picture, you can kind of check ahead of time and see, okay, is that going to give me enough space? If, I could cut it to the outside if I need a little more seam allowance. So that's just some of the advantages of those nesting tools. Now we have those on special. 20% off. The code is WW20. So any of our nesting tools, our squares, our rulers that are in when you go to our website, there's a category that says like rulers, squares, hexagons, and more. Anything in that category is going to be 20% off until midnight on Friday. So, okay. So hopefully you learned a little bit from all that silliness, but let me get this out of the way now. I'm coming back here. Let me grab my notes again. And okay. All right. So Ron is going to get everybody back in so that we can go through our question and answer period. And while he's doing that, I do want to remind you again that our vendor specials go until midnight on Friday. I want to remind you to check back later this evening. Oop, we're having a technical difficulty. Are we live or no? Huh?
Linda can't get back on.
Okay, well, I'm just going to keep talking here. It looks like we're having some technical issues with a couple of our vendors, but Ron's working on it. So hang on just a second. He's trying to tell me something.
Linda can't connect.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we're having some problems with Linda getting reconnected, but maybe she'll get back on here in just a minute. And then also, before we try to do our Q&A, and even if she's not here, by the way, I will do my best to try to answer any questions you have for her. But just a reminder, Linda kind of got us all in the mood now, but all next month, all of October, Christmas in October. So all of the vendors are going to be presenting quick and easy gifts for Christmas or ready-mades that you can grab for your quilt and crafty friends. So be sure that you set your reminders so you don't miss any of those shows for sure. We have our regular 3 vendors every week, but we've actually got a couple of weeks where we have 4 because so many vendors were excited to join us for that show. We kind of doubled stuff up. So looks like we are still trying to get, I don't know if Bobbie can hear me, but we have lost you also. Unfortunately, she's messaging us. If you have questions for Bobbie from Quilted Treasure, just type them in the comments. And as soon as she can get a connection again, she will answer those herself. And right now I'm just going to, so guys, if you have any questions, just go ahead and put them in and I will do my best to answer them. But if not, the vendor that they were for, we'll have them all get back on and double check. And let's see. Marjorie is saying that she loves her Martelli rotary cutters, and actually that's what Linda Winter uses and sells from Winter Design. So a lot of people really do like those as well. Jenny is asking about the price on Bobbie's new pattern. So she will get that answer to you once she gets back and gets her connection back. So again, if you have questions, go ahead and type me. I'm sorry about that. That's what happens. We talk about that all the time. We are relying on the internet for things to happen the way they should. And if you've watched the news lately, even on those big network TV shows, things happen because everybody's working remote now. So let's see. Is that Jackie? I'm sorry, I can barely see the computer from here. Asking about the Advent calendars. She had 4 different calendars. So there were some great ones to choose from. And again, you'll find those on her website. If you do her drop-down menu and go to her specials page, those are all going to be there. She's got special prices for you guys until midnight on Friday. And I'm just trying to see if I didn't miss anything. I'm so sorry again, guys. We just, every once in a while, we kind of have a little glitch, but let's see. Doesn't look like anybody has any other questions. So again, even if you have them after the show, if something comes up and you go, I wish I would have asked this or that, go ahead and type it in because I usually do try to go back and look and make sure we get everybody taken care of. But also, I just want to mention one time, Beth and I told you guys about this when we were live from the Inland Empire last weekend, but we want to see what you guys are doing. We want you to share with us on the Wild Wednesday Facebook page what you've been working on, especially if it's something that you purchased a kit or a pattern from one of our shows, so that we can share those with those vendors who presented it. So we want that to be an interactive site, and we haven't done real good at keeping it that way so far because we have been, like you guys know, we've been on the road almost nonstop, and the only time we weren't on the road, we were all sick. So we have got a little behind on doing that, but we do. And probably what we'll do is I might even have some kind of a contest for people who post stuff. Every once in a while I just like to give stuff away. So, and there's Bobbie. She typed in her patterns are $8 each, so she's watching us. So again, we thank her for trying to get that taken care of. And you know what? I thank you, Mo, for saying I'm doing great. I feel like I've never done this before. I was so ill prepared today, but I think that's all we've got for today. We appreciate you guys all very, very much. As Beth and I also mentioned at the show, we need you guys to help us share and get the word out about our Wild Wednesdays and about them all. We're coming up to a period here real soon where we won't be doing shows because there's always a lull from Thanksgiving till the end of January. So I know you guys are going to need stuff from all of us, so be sure you check out them all. So, that's it for now, guys. Again, thank you for tuning in. We can't wait wait to see you next week when we start Christmas in October. And don't forget, check back around 6 o'clock to see who won the door prizes today. Thanks, guys. Go out and make it a creative week. Get something sewn. Bye now.